What's crackin', ladies and gents, children of all ages? Today we take you into the masterclass of Gunther's crowning achievement, winning the World Heavyweight Championship. He's already the best wrestler in the world, but today he becomes a wrestling god. And no, I don't mean in the Bradshaw kind of way. Here he is, sporting the Hulk Hogan win-loss record on the way to the ring. And here's Damien Priest, flashing the gold and the flames one last time. It's a cool intro, but intros don't win titles. Just ask Taker, and Bondage Taker is second rate. The match starts off with Gunther charging Priest, being rewarded with a hard right hand. Priest backs Gunther into the corner and lays into him with a combination of punches and kicks. He's selling the story of how pissed off he is that Gunther doesn't respect him and where he came from. Gunther ain't no bitch though, and he works his way back into the center of the ring. Priest again gets the upper hand with a running shoulder into the corner, maintaining a fast pace early on and bringing a big fight feel to the match. Then he speed runs a chokeslam, which you know Gunther isn't having any of that. The Austrian Oak chops the shit out of Damien's shoulder, and he sells the fuck out of it. And you would think this would hurt Gunther more, but my man has hands of steel. Priest shows love to his mentor, Canyon, with the flatliner, which was deadly in the WCW years, but it's been demoted to a mere transitional move. Now, kind of like the DDT. Gunther rolls out of the ring for a breather, but Priest exits the opposite way, runs the gambit, jumps the steps, and gives him this awkward leaping punch. That leaves Gunther with an easy counter into the steel post, which is now the plastic post, aluminum post, light post. I mean, what do we call this thing now? The straight talk post? It's a hell of a lot safer, whatever it is, and it makes a nice sound when bodies go boom. Either way, Gunther then lands a backdrop to the side apron, which Priest tries to stop by grabbing the rope. Personally, I think that only makes it worse because you land on your kidney, but you do you, Priest. I would trust Gunther on that one. Now shit gets real, as Gunther delivers the first heavy meat chop of the match. And then the fun begins. As in the fundamentals, a move as old as time, the body slam. There's even a movie named after it. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. Priest throws some good forearms. I mean, it's not as good as Takeshita's, but, they are A-, and unfortunately you can see the stupid-ass leg slapping, for which, for the love of all that is good in this world, can we please stop doing it? Then Priest goes for the ear box, which is nothing more than a face clap, which I guess he's trying to shock his opponent with sound, because you can see this a mile away. And this is the problem I have with him being a world champion. If he would get rid of these moves and focus on what he does best, and it's not like he doesn't have talent, he just does too much of this garbage. And finally, Gunther is back on offense with the full-throated chop, and things are looking good again. And this is why he's the best in the game today. Double underhook plex on the big man. Crispy clean, like a dryer sheet that's been soaked with Febreze and air-fried for 6 months straight. This leads to the first cover of the match. Straight nutbag to the chin of Priest. He says, "No gracias, yo soy no mariposa." They exchange shots back and forth here. Chop, forearm, you know the drill. The crowd doesn't get into the gay boo action here. It's a very slow, methodical pace. Gunther takes Priest down with a kick to the hand. I purposely freeze framing this here to show you how each man works. You can see how Damien takes a kick by crossing his hands. The boot never comes close to his face. He's a good to decent seller, and he does pretty good with the job in this match. As you will see later on, it's his offense that he really needs to work on. Gunther goes to the top rope, and he's the master of slaps. As far as Priest goes, he's the master of slaps. And he slaps his right shoulder to give that meat sound as he pretends to connect with Gunther's chin. This is entirely a new school concept that HBK started and never should have caught on. Had someone done it once a match during a finish on special pay-per-views, I could give it a pass, but every single move is overkill. By contrast here, Gunther is doing the same move, no slapping, no bullshit. And if I asked you who was the hardest striker, Priest or Gunther, who would you say? Gunther. This is proof that this slapping crap doesn't work. So kids, please follow Gunther's example and not Damien Priest. Now, Gunther puts on a clinic. He's got a chicken wing locked in while delivering kidney shots up on the top rope. Why do one thing when you can do two? Priest hits Gunther with a side kick or a step-up enziguri with the obligatory leg slap. Priest then calls for the Hurricane Rana by saying, "Coming backwards." Then again, bringing home a point that I say all the time. We wrestlers in the ring do not call moves by the names marks use. So please, once again, reference my Hurricane Rana head scissor takedown video, but its execution of it is quite unique, where he crosses his legs around Gunther's head, and Gunther does most of the work with a powerbomb motion and a fantastic front flip. Priest immediately follows it up with a broken arrow and moves into a swift cover. And this is the point of the match where you can kind of feel the tempo step up a bit. Big D, he starts juking and jiving like it's the second round of a boxing match, and the crowd, they begin to get behind him. But instead of throwing punches, he throws kicks, very Bryan Danielson style, not allowing Gunther to get on his feet right away. The King General says, "Enough of this shit," and he inboxes a kick and a chop of his own and gets out of the corner, and they exchange in the center again. Some of Damien's strikes just look awkward, like this one, and Gunther does nothing to block it. This is a bone I have to pick with professional wrestling. In real fights, you play defense. I wish they would try to block more instead of just eating shots all day long. Imagine how good a fight would look if it was 90% countering and blocking, and only a few shots hit, and you made those look good. Plus, they would be so much more healthier and taking less bumps and damage. Now, here's where the real meat slapping begins, and it's important to note because Gunther already has damage to his chest from Finn Balor. And you can see it didn't take much to open up Gunther's chest. There was only 4 slaps, and he got color the hard way, or in this case, the easy way. Priest kicks Gunther in the face and knocks him down. This actually looked pretty good. Maybe the best kick of the night from Priest. Priest picks Gunther up, but gets the soul slapped the fuck out of him. Just check the flex out on my man's flapper as he panhandles Damien's memories. Gunther doesn't stop there, because he tries to decapitate the transitional champ with the regular jugular hugular. After eating pork chops for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Priest is thinking about going vegetarian here, as he stops the helping hand. No mas, no mas. And of course, it's a slapping kick that gets him out of this mess. He's really showcasing it tonight. A few more kicks, a forearm, and then this hilarious dance pose that he should never ever be caught dead doing in public again. Of course, only an idiot would let themselves be hit with that, since it was telegraphed a mile away, and Gunther is no idiot. So, Priest gets a chop, of course, but man, you can see through that spot. It's bad. Priest is pulling back to take it. Another spot where he's in the wrong for being too fancy, and it just looks so amateurish next to Gunther. Then you can see here, Priest catches Gunther with the boot, and Gunther eats most of it as he can't get his hand up in time. That one's on Gunther. Oh well, it happens. No receipts allowed on those. And they did give Gunther a good 15 seconds to recover, as Damien went to the opposite corner after that shot, and the ref did go check on him. And This sets up the charge spot where Damien slaps the post after Gunther gets out of the way. Once you look for it, you see Damien likes to slap everything in the ring.
Not bad, not bad, not bad, not bad.
Gunther then hits his big Tyrannosaurus kick to the chest to Priest, and people forget he ended matches with this move as the IC champ. He immediately follows it up with his patented powerbomb pinning combination finisher. So basically Priest gets hit with a double finisher here, which is now considered a secondary finisher combo straight into a pinning predicament, which is about as strong as you can get. I would have loved to see Gunther win a match with that kick a week or two before this match to make this spot look stronger. That was always the beauty of Gunther, was how many different ways he could win a match. It's sort of been forgotten recently. And Priest kicks out to very little pop, which is why I said what I said. Then the camera zooms in on the blood, and the audience pops for that more than the kick out. Gunther looks up at the giant monitor and sees what the audience is popping over for the first time, and that's when he notices he's bleeding. So he wipes it off almost with like disgust, like, "You can't damage me, this is nothing, I am a machine, I will break you." But he wipes it on the mat, the sacred mat. I guess to say that literally he left his blood and sweat there, maybe for a future promo. I mean, that's what I would do anyway. And then something happens in the crowd. This is interesting. It gets a massive pop, and it catches Gunther's attention, which is why he looks to his right here. I cannot for the life of me figure out what it is. If anyone knows or has a video of it, please let me know. It's actually one of the largest pops of the night, and it has nothing to do with the match. I'm thinking maybe a woman flashed the crowd or something. That's the only thing I can imagine that would get that kind of pop. Anyway, back to the match. So we go with an exchange in the middle again. Gunther is working Priest over fundamentally without the need for any slaps, just his hand on the opponent's body, with Priest oftentimes double slapping himself and the opponent, which I like to call playing patty cake. Another powerbomb attempt by Gunther is foiled, and Priest returns fire with a kick to the head that Gunther is much more well prepared for, as you can see. As he gets his hand up to protect his ear this time, he's not taking any chances. That really lets you know just how much that first one rocked him. Big D then hits a south of heaven out of nowhere, but it's an awkward looking one, and he really gets no elevation on it, and you immediately know there is no way he's getting the trifecta on this one. As you can see during the kick out, everyone is still seated and there is very moderate pop. The fans pretty much know that there's a betrayal coming and that this isn't the end of the match by any means. Sometimes with certain storylines, you paint yourself into a corner with a match, and I think that's what happened here. So Priest recognizes this and he tries to rouse them a bit. They are far too asleep for a contest this good at this point in the match. And either guy can do this. A face can pump up the crowd or a heel can scold the crowd. It just depends on where you are in the match. He signals for the Razor's Edge and then attempts it twice and fails both times. But as you can see, even when Gunther counters out of a move, he is so fundamental doing it and maintains submissive control. Gunther goes for the sleeper, which I am so happy to see is being taken seriously again since the days of Roddy Piper. But Priest gets out of it immediately by throwing Gunther over his shoulder. He then tries another one of his kicks, but has gone to the well far too often, and Gunther captures the leg and hits him with the release perfect plex, which I call the imperfect plex. A couple of clotheslines later, and we have ourselves another false finish. Keeping in mind that clotheslines are finishers for Gunther. Once again, the crowd doesn't pop like they should for finishers because they are too smart for this match, no matter how fundamentally sound Gunther is. This is the point in the match where Damien Priest starts telling Gunther to bring it. And let me tell you, Gunther obliges, like the dude abides. Not the man you want to ask to bring the pain. We all know Brock Lesnar would have jobbed to Gunther had they had that match at WrestleMania. After Gunther puts D down a couple of times, he goes to the crowd and then he lets them know what's up, and he gets a strong reaction because, as you can see, this crowd is ready for a coronation. As popular as Priest is, they may know that Gunther is inevitable, and this is a true God mode being activated right now. Gunther stands dominant over the champion, and he just continues to beat him down as he wishes. And this is where Finn Balor shows up. So we know we're in the home stretch, right? He said he didn't want any help, and Finn said he was going to stay in the back, but here we are, and we already know what's going to happen. At first, Finn has no effect on the match, and Gunther just continues to go to town on Priest. And then at this point, Priest is pretty much a corpse. And it seems like Gunther can pretty much pin him or submit him at any time. I mean, my dude's HP is at 1, and Gunther is just beating him up because he gets paid by the hour now, or by the chop now, apparently. And then finally, Damien sees Finn and starts shaking his head like, yeah, I see you. I got this. And then Gunther lands the hardest chop of the night across the bow of Damien's body. But Priest begins fighting from underneath and starts making the babyface comeback. A match like this is really interesting because it's not often you see double turns like Bret and Austin. Priest has been a heel but is slowly turning face, and while Gunther and Balor have always been heels, Balor walks away with nuclear heat, and Gunther ends up on Raw with "You deserve it" chants because his talent is undeniable. So you get a mix of mega heel, likable heel, and pure babyface from a group of triple heels. Even in a dynamic where Ludwig Kaiser is hated, and just last week, Balor was cheered over Gunther. So now that the Austrian Oak put down the first comeback, he's opened up pretty good for a chop fest and wipes the blood into his hair. I mean, bro be putting his blood in weird places, man. So Michael Cole calls him a sicko. And then the workhorse goes right back to it with the boot to the face, even as they did a full walk around the ring, and that's still not enough time for Damien to recover. But even as Cole says, it's starting to become a bit uncomfortable, Damien wags a finger at the referee to tell him not to call it off. No one is spared, as Gunther even has feet for Finn Balor after telling him to talk up his boy. Straight savage. I gotta admit this spot helps, because you figure Finn getting attacked isn't necessarily going to want him to make help Gunther, or want him to make him help Gunther, so it's a great diversion. But Finn's a big picture guy, and he's been playing this for far too long to worry about such little things. And what's funny is getting beat on wasn't enough to motivate Priest, but watching Balor get hit is what woke him up. It's kind of corny, but whatever. It's not like they've had this fantastic friendship recently woven into the storyline. Had this happened during their tag team run, I could buy this a little bit better. Or had Priest been behaving more protective recently, other than Dom? Either way, Priest does get pissed. He takes the straps off, eats a boot, and gets on his feet. He eats another boot, hits the ropes, and then Kojima, lariat, 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 razor's edge, and then no sell by Gunther. I'm sure the VIP section loved that, especially Kevin Nash and X-Pac sitting up there watching Scott Hall's move get turned into a transitional fuck-all. Then he hits a Salve to Heaven. So this is pretty much the same as earlier in the match, where it's back-to-back finishers, and Gunther is in serious trouble. But Priest obviously rolls him like twice toward the ropes. It was a very sloppy repositioning. As you can see, they land here, and then they end up over here. And in this position, Gunther didn't even need Finn Balor to put his leg up, because he was already under the ropes, or he could have grabbed it with his arm or slid his leg underneath, or literally did anything, and the ref would have stopped the count. Dude could have reached right across with his right arm and still got into the ropes. So this was very sloppy as a spot, and it could have been easily fixed considering they had 2 standing finishers to set up the ring positioning beforehand. I'm sure they're both very angry about this one after the match, and it's 50-50 both of their faults. Either way, Finn poses with his back turned to Priest, which is very symbolic. And then Damien sees what happened on the replay, which is the second time in the match that something on the video screen affects the performance of the wrestlers in the ring, which is pretty weird, to be honest. I don't think we've had that happen before, so that gets him pissed off, but it's also the first time I've ever seen a referee see a replay in real time. And the referee knows what happened and doesn't even kick Finn Balor out of ringside or do anything about it, which buries the referee. So I immediately don't like this setup. Technology and wrestling have never really mixed well, and it's going to be hard to find that balance in the future. The fans at this point start chanting, "Holy shit," but I feel like everyone saw this coming, so I don't know why that was a chant, other than they just wanted to do something because they've been quiet the whole time. And Finn has a fantastic expression here, and there's excellent camera work and play here as always. Damien tries to go after Finn, which means, he's turned his back on the uber god of wrestling, which is never a good idea, which gets his ass snatched up right into the signature sleeper hold, and you just know that it's night time very soon for the Archer of Infamy. And now Balor is just staring daggers into Damien Priest as he fades into that long night. You know that's got to piss him off so much. Gunther is telling the ref, he's out! But the ref diligently checks and determines that is not the case. And as you see here, there have been a lot of weak sleepers over the years, but Gunther's is not one of them. My man has this one locked in tight. The referee should be pulling an 80s move here and slipping his hand underneath the chin to make sure it's not a choke. But then again, that would be too legitimate, wouldn't it? Can we please bring that back? Competent refs. I can hear Jesse Ventura screaming at Gorilla Monsoon now about what a horrible job his son Joey Morella is doing. So Damien hulks up and out of the hold and turns it into a pinfall to force the break. But instead of staying on Gunther, Damien goes after Finn like a Terminator. And that's one mistake too many. So Gunther pulls Priest back into reality and hits him with a powerbomb to soften him up for the almighty sleeper. And now we just fade to black. And now for the first time since 1993, we have a god-tier champion at the absolute peak of his powers. Someone on par with the Ric Flairs of the world. And it's insane that even as I make this video, Randy Orton is cutting a promo about Flair and Steamboat. And I know Randy thinks he's Flair and Gunther is Steamboat, but I think it's actually the other way around, because Gunther is the more complete wrestler, like Ric Flair. And although Randy thinks himself a technician, he really isn't. And what does it mean that Cody Rhodes and Gunther, the former number 1 and number 2 in the Royal Rumble, are now both holding the hardware? And then, moving on to Raw, we see Gunther showing off his beautiful new belt on Raw as the uber god king of all wrestling. Bow down to this man. Recognize that this man game translates into any era. The 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. It does not matter. He would be a champion anywhere. Forget timeless Tony Storm. This man is truly timeless. He embodies what professional wrestling truly is. I haven't been a mark for someone like this since before I was a wrestler, and that was for guys like Bret Hart, Ric Flair, Kurt Angle, and Randy Savage. And he got the "you deserve it" chants from half the crowd. I honestly expected it to be a little more, but he's an absolute heel, so I can understand the reaction. But it's impossible to deny his talent. And today's mark is equivalent with the 90s smart. They will cheer the heels if they're good enough. So let's move to the future and tie this thing up. Randy Orton comes out jamming to his song. The crowd is singing. Everyone's happy that they're getting Orton versus Gunther 2. Gunther isn't your typical heel. He doesn't like to cheat to win. He doesn't like that Randy didn't have his shoulders down when he pinned him. And he's the kind of guy that wants to beat you and be better than you, simply because it's the truth. He is better than you. So we've got two killers with a similar mentality. Randy Orton, the legend killer, against the legend himself, the man who only needs one name. Like Plato, Socrates, Elvis, Madonna, Cher, Prince, and now Gunther himself, the man with the three most destructive letters in sports entertainment that comes out of nowhere, the RKO, against the man who is only prepared, or not only prepared for everything, but is fighting for his home, in his home territory of Berlin. That's like fighting Superman on the sun. So we all know who's going to win. Not a man, not a legend, but a wrestling god. The King General, the champion, Gunther. And if you like these videos, please like, share, and subscribe. I never ask for it, but please do that for me. I would greatly appreciate it. We're almost to 500 subscribers, trying to make it to 1,000. Thank you so much for your support. Deuces.